Hi, it's tea time. Let's talk about smart versus rich. How often do you hear the rhetorical question, if you are so smart, why aren't you rich? I'm sure it happens to everyone sooner or later, and depending on who's talking, it can trigger anything from mild irritation to the full internal screaming. Once, a rich man asked me this question, a man who made his fortune during the wild economic collapse of a Central Asian republic in the 1990s. Let's just say he was strategically positioned to control certain financial flows, and some of that money simply stuck to his fingers. He saw this as a proof that he was incredibly smart. I had, though, a different assessment. And yes, that conversation did not generate any tiny spark of anger somewhere inside me. But the question itself is still interesting, and today I want to unpack it. Smart versus rich. What does it actually mean? The whole rich versus smart debate is fundamentally flawed for a very simple reason. Being smart is one skill, while becoming rich is a completely different one. A person can be brilliant in mathematics, philosophy, surgery, or designing spaceship autopilots, and still have no clue how to scale a business, manage risk, build systems, or raise capital. Meanwhile, someone with very average intelligence can become rich simply by having a scalable idea, the courage to take risk, and the psychological immunity to stress that would make most of us cry in the shower. Smart not equal rich. Rich is not equal smart. It's very simple. Most smart people work in professions where income is tied to the number of hours they personally work. A doctor has two hands, a teacher has one voice, a software engineer has one pair of eyes unless AI soon grows them an extra set. No matter how good they are, they can't build 24 hours a day. Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, leverage others' people's time, money and stress. Preferably stress. That's how wealth scales. Not with intelligence, with multiplication. And here comes the big twist. You do not need to be an entrepreneur to become rich, and I'm not going to sell you investment advice in this video. Most people define rich as more than enough money to live comfortably without fear. You can absolutely achieve that as a programmer, a doctor, a designer, a teacher, a specialist of any kind, as long as you earn slightly more than you spend, save consistently, invest responsibly, and do it for a long enough time. Or start early. Yes, the boring formula, but the one that works. And unlike startup founders, professionals don't wake up one morning suddenly bankrupt because some investor in San Francisco didn't like their unit economics. Let me give you a real example. I have a friend, a hand surgeon. He actually operated on my hand some time ago. He's very skilled and very respected. Not an entrepreneur of any kind. He doesn't trust ETFs, doesn't trust the stock market, doesn't even trust people who talk about stocks. His strategy is gloriously simple. Every 2 years, he buys an apartment in Berlin. He just works, saves the down payment, buys the next one. 2 years, boom, another door. Another rent payment, another brick in the "my kids will be fine forever" wall. I've lost track of how many apartments he owns, but I know his 4 kids will never stress about rent in their lives. All achievement with no entrepreneurial mindset and no startup accelerator, no pitch tech and no disruptive innovation, just skill, high income, discipline, compounding, wealth. And now let me share a personal story that illustrates this perfectly. About 30 years ago, my family was in a desperate financial situation. No money, just debts and cows. My mother was a piano teacher, which in a post-Soviet city at that time was basically a volunteer position with a symbolic salary. But she was one of the best teachers in the city. Because of that skill, not luck, not positive vibes, but skill. She got a rare opportunity to teach expert foreigners. They paid 5 to 10 times the normal rate. So she worked hard relentlessly, long hours every day for 2 years, and she fixed everything. She paid off debts and bought an apartment. She stabilized the entire family. The cost? She eventually started to hate music. Imagine being a pianist and thinking, I wish I were deaf today. That's how hard she worked. And what about my father? He was the entrepreneur in the family, full of ideas, talented with concepts, But because of the economic chaos in the country, none of his ventures could succeed. He was trying to build a business, while my mother, a skilled professional, paid the bills, saved the family, and built real stability. This is the perfect illustration. The skilled professional succeeded where the entrepreneur could not because one is smarter, but because the environment rewarded skill over risk. And this is not rare. Now we get to my favorite part. People who don't want to study and give up fast, don't want to develop any professional expertise, don't want to work hard, always say the same thing. Bill Gates did not finish college, Elon Musk dropped out, Steve Jobs left university. Well, I tend to hear it from my kids, and I have 4 of my own, who do not want to do their homework. But here is the part they forget. They did not drop out to lie on the couch and scroll reels. They didn't drop out to manifest success. They didn't drop out because reading is hard. They dropped out because they were already working 16 hours a day on world-changing products. And very important point, they weren't uneducated. They were self-educating harder than most people who stay in school. Also, statistically speaking, the odds that you are Bill Gates without any skill or education are approximately equal to the odds of being stuck by lightning while winning the lottery during a shark attack. So, very low probability. So please don't use rare global anomalies as excuses for not learning anything. What's the final message? Being smart doesn't automatically make you rich, as being rich doesn't automatically make you smart. Becoming a skilled professional is the safest, most reliable path to financial stability, and often to becoming rich enough. You can still invest and build side income. You can still accumulate assets like my surgeon friend, or you can even start a business later if you want, with safety nets. But starting life with no skills and hoping your entrepreneurial mindset will magically catapult you into the next Forbes cover? Let's be honest, hope is not a strategy, and hope is not entrepreneurship. That's gambling with extra steps. So, my conclusion is simple. If you must choose between being smart and being rich, choose smart first, because a smart professional can always become rich with a few good habits. But a person with no skills, betting on pure entrepreneurship will most likely stay exactly where they started, just with more motivational books on their shelf. Thank you for watching. Stay smart, stay curious, and invest in yourself before investing in anything else. See you next time!